Welcome to the Drapery again. This is Dr. Chris Baker, DC. Today we got a special one for you coming from, I think it's the 8th installment of League that MagicGatheringStrat.com has hosted. And it is Commander with a twist, Commander Pauper. So Pauper Commander, basically the 99 card main deck is restricted to commons that have only ever been printed at common online. So cards like Hymn to Tarak are banned because they're not at common online. And you can play any commander you want. So there's going to be some exploitable ones more than others, but I figured I'd go with my bro Brago, since he is my spirit animal, so to speak. So he's actually a spirit too. Wow. Okay. So Brago's a 4 mana 2/4 flyer in blue-white, so you only get to cast spells in the blue-white color identity. And when he deals combat damage to a player, you can exile any number of non-land permanents you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, so they all flicker. He also likes to say, "My rule persists beyond death itself." I hope that's true. So there's a couple things that we want to obviously be doing. We want to be playing not just creatures, but any permanent that has a sweet comes into play or leaves play effect. And we want to be able to protect Brago from removal. And we want to be able to make sure that Brago can get past flying blockers or reach blockers, and so that he can connect. Because if he can connect, typically it doesn't take much. If he connects once or twice, that should usually be game from the crazy amount of advantage that it will create. So let's look. There's a couple of categories of cards, then they basically all fit into that. They're sweet, enter the battlefield effects, ways to protect him, ways to get him through, and sometimes just a little bit of value or other combos. But we'll kind of go over all the combos of the deck here. I go through it as fast as I can, each individual card. So 37 lands is what I was told for a good commander mana base. I have a lot of mana rocks too. Ancient Den can be searched by Trinket Mage. We're not playing Trinket Mage, but that's what made me think of it at first. It's good against, like, I guess, Wretch Mind, like they do in Wretched Mind or something. Discard 2, but if you have an artifact, only discard 1. So that's why it's there, and whatever. There's no real synergy with artifacts. So there's Chancery, just good bounce land, dual land. You're going to play every dual land in blue-white. Bant Panorama finds a blue or white. Command Tower, just the perfect land. Cycling lands, you're going to play all of them, all 4 of them. There's 2 to cycle for this one. Esper Panorama also finds blue-white. Evolving Wilds finds blue or white. Hellamar Depths lets you not quite scry 3, but reorder the top 3 cards of your deck. Might not be worth it for the tap land inclusion, because it's not that great of an effect, but sometimes you have cards like these Panoramas or the Evolving Wilds still in play, so you could put a card on top and then shuffle the rest away. Haunted Fengraf can get back a random creature that has died, so pretty good utility. Islands, that's my favorite island art of all time. Gain 2 life land, not bad. Another cycling land. This card is interesting. You can basically Shimmering Grotto type effect, Unknown Shores type effect, to cast your commander with an extra +1/+1 counter on it. It's probably not relevant, but I figure the mana is typically so good, it shouldn't really matter. Let's see what else we got down here. Bunch of plains. Radiant Fountain, gain more life. Another cycling land, Sandstone Bridge. Sometimes you need to be a little bigger and attack through. State of Synod, Trinket Mage again, even though it's not there. Cycling land. Sajiri Step, another really important one if we have creatures that get hit with auras, pacifism type effects that can shrug those right off or get us past a blocker. We don't have like crop rotation or instant speed way to get it into play. Skyline Cascade to stop their attacks for a turn. Turn mark expands, dual land, and another dual land. So the mana base is pretty straightforward. Playing almost every cool effect that we can get. I notice we're not playing like a quicksand type effect because we kind of want all of our mana. Our deck's really mana hungry. So going by the curve, we'll just kind of sound off here. Cloud Shift is going to be good with all of our comes into play effect creatures, and it's a 1 mana way to prevent Brago from being killed by a targeted removal spell, which is sometimes all you need. God's Willing also great. Apostle's Blessing also fits at a 1 mana spell. Also protects from artifacts if that's ever relevant, if they have a flying blocker. Journey to Nowhere, just efficient removal. And what I like about this trick, I didn't even realize till I played my first game of Commander of how good this is. You can journey their commander, and then when it gets exiled, it'll go to their command zone. So now Journey is in play with nothing underneath it. And so when you hit them with Brago, you can flicker Journey, nothing will come back into play, and you get to retarget to kill a new creature. That's really sick. Of course, Skyfisher, again, perfect synergy to return any of our sweet effects to hand. Momentary Blink is just a double effect, 2 and 4 mana of flickering. Otherworldly Journey is especially good if we have Brago in play and no other creatures, and they play an Edict effect. None of the other protection spells protect against it, but this will actually remove it from combat or from the battlefield completely. So that's really good. Shelter, again, just like a God's Willing, but it draws a card, so I figured that's worth the 2nd mana you have to pay more than something like Feat of Resistance, which I don't care about the plus and counter nearly as much as drawing a card. Temporal Isolation is basically just a flash pacifism. I wanted at least one of them because we can search for it with Muddled the Mixture. So we can transmute this to find any card on 2 mana. And so I figured having a flash enchantment would be a little bit better, but really that card could be pacifism. But it does say prevent all damage, so if the creature has a tap deal damage ability, it's better than pacifism at that point. Alexis Cloak, this card is just not fair. They go to try to kill your creature, you play this in response, so you counter their spell, and then you can't target it ever again. If this gets put on Brago, it's probably going to be a good game unless they have, again, Edict effects or ways to deal with enchantments or ways to block it, which is kind of hard to come by. So our first comes into play effect is Augury Owl. Omen Speaker was in the deck at the beginning, but it's only Scry 2, and it doesn't have Evasion. Evasion is really important for a couple of cards in the deck. So Augury Owl, Scry 3, and a 1/1 flyer is pretty good. The flying is relevant mainly because of this card, Ninja the Depowers. It doesn't have any good synergy with coming into play and entering the battlefield, except for it can return creatures to hand, and if they have Evasion, they're more likely to hit. So that's why cards like Augury Owl are much better than Omen Speaker. And it scries more, so Fawn of Fortunes is just a good draw card effect, and we also have 2 Gravediggers. We have Oromancer and Griffin Dreamfinder, which are sweet comes into play abilities that will allow us to stay ahead on cards. Spreading Seeds, good enter the battlefield effect. Usually, unless they're playing a greedy mana base, it's actually fine to cast on your own lands to fix your mana if you don't have enough blue, and you're less likely to get, lose your Spreading Seeds to like a bounce land. But just a cantrip, really. 2 mana cantrips are really good. Counterspell, because it can hit their commander or any relevant spell. Deprive, again, just can protect us for 2 mana or interact with anything that they have. Model, again, mainly for the transmute, to be able to find all these sweet spells. Hindering Light's a pretty sweet gem. Again, any 2 mana spell that says draw a card on it, I really like. And it stops effects that target you, meaning like discard or Rolling Thunder type effects. And another way to protect Brago for 2 mana. This is just cantrip 2 mana. You never want to sack it unless you have to, because you'd rather be drawing cards with it after you connect with Brago. Signet fixes, and also has a really beneficial effect of being a mana rock that if it gets targeted by Brago, it will untap, and it does not have summoning sickness. So I started off with like Silver Mirror and the Gold Mirror, the blue and white mirror, to ramp from 2 to 4 to get Brago out on turn 3, which I thought would be good. But really, you don't want to be doing that, because if you don't want it to die removal and cost 6, it's a huge problem. But you do want to ramp your mana, and you do want to be able to cast more things after you draw a bunch of cards. So every mana rock at 2 is really important. So Falwar Stone. I don't even know how this works with Commander. Like, what if they're playing Naya, or not Naya? I guess green, black. I guess Jund, and I'm not playing any of those colors. So I guess I'm trying to fade Jund, because Falwar Stone would just produce 0 mana at that point, but it's still pretty good. Ichor Wellspring, another cantrip. Nothing to sacrifice it. You don't want to sacrifice it. Mind Stone, another good. This land, yeah, you don't really want to sacrifice it unless you have to, but sometimes you have to. This can fix, but really it just ramps, and the Prism draws a card too. So all these 2 mana spells are pretty important, because they're great on 2 mana and cycling. It lets us draw a lot more cards. So we have a really sweet enchantment package. You've seen a few of them so far. We can search for them with Heliod's Program. This card's really busted because it only costs 3 mana. And so if we just get to find all of these, really sweet enchantments in our deck, then we're gonna do fine. Hobble's good, mainly because it says draw a card on it. But apparently Tassiger is one of the best commanders, so it's good to not get attacked by a 4/5. Hookmaster is like not that good, but if you repeat it, it's cool because it's acting like removal for 2 turns, and then if you ever go off with it, like they just can't ever untap, they can't block, so it helps Brago get damage through. Chris Sanctifier is just really good. You have to pay the kicker when you flicker them, but being able to deal with artifacts and enchantments is really strong for one of our creatures. O-Ring, again, if we get their commander with it, it gets exiled, we can flicker it again. It's a really strong effect. Of note, once Oath of the Gatewatch gets released, Isolation Zone is definitely getting put in this deck for sure. Pentarch Ward, another, again, cantrip enchantment. You choose a color, getting protection. A lot of decks are monocolor, and this card is just game. If you can, again, stick it on a Brago, or even anything, it's really sick. Since the Outcast, just being able to make an extra 1/1 flyer is pretty good. You can chump for a long time. It's not that strong though. If it doesn't draw a card, I'm not super excited about it, but making a bunch of 1/1 flyers is pretty good. Core Barrier pretty good because 1/1 Island Walk is probably just like 1/1 unblockable against most decks. Probably better than flying, actually. Drifter Phantasms is another transmute card, so this time you can find any of your 3 drops. So being able to like sack or transmute this and find like Heliod's Pilgrim, and then Heliod's Pilgrim finds any other aura, is a way to turn this into a really expensive way to find, auras that cost maybe 2 or 4. But you can always block too, in a pinch. Sky Spawner, token value, links, just a Hookmaster, functional reprint. Mana War, that's some good value. It just kills a bunch of tokens. It returns creatures to our hand for more comes into play value, which is pretty good. Yeah, it does it all. Now, Reality Acid. This card is actually bonkers. 2 things. You put it on there, permanent. You attack with Brago. You flicker Reality Acid. Then it leaves play trigger its effect. So basically they're going to sack the permanent, whatever was enchanted before, then you get to re-equip or reattach it to whatever permanent you want. And then if you hit with Brago, again, next turn, you're just, vindicating them every time you attack, which is just really strong. You can also return it to hand with things like Core Hookmaster, or Core Skyfisher. What else returns permanents? This card, Aether Snipe, returns permanents to hand. So there's a lot of other cards that get you your value immediately. Seagate Oracle, pretty great way to, what is that card called? Look at the top two. It's a 1 blue. Sleight of Hand, pretty good to do that every turn. Traveler's Cloak, this is a good cantrip, but also a way to make Brago unblockable if they have flyers and no removal. Aether Adept, just another functional mana war. Invisimancer, pretty good. It's unblockable itself, and it can give Brago unblockability every turn. This card might not be necessary, but because the deck is actually pretty defensive. But yeah, Pilgrim's Eye. This card is just perfect Borderland Ranger. If you get to recast this or reflicker this a few times, you just stay ahead of mana, which is really nice. Whisper Silk Cloak doesn't have any combos except if you put it on Brago, it's pretty much the combo you're looking for. Trinket Mage can't find it, and Fabricate's uncommon. I don't know any other common ways to search this up. But that would be really nice if you could search for this, or how to search for this, and I just don't. Tell me in the comments, and I might add that to my deck for the next way, because that would be the best combo. A little expensive, right? But eventually I'll have enough mana, and I'll just have Brago plus 2 of these open, or a counter spell and 1 of these open, and then go Cloak Equip, and if they'll go removal spell, I'll counter it. They go second removal spell, I'll hopefully give my guy protection, then it survives, right? So let's just round this out. Core Cartographer is really cool one. It just finds the planes every turn, so a way to get mana advantage since we're so mana hungry. More 1/1 flyer tokens. Again, not sure how necessary 1/1 flyer tokens are. If you're hitting with Brago, you're hitting with Brago, so you probably don't need cards like that. Elgochi Mate, real good way to protect Brago. Again, if you have 8 mana and they're tapped out, pretty good just way to guarantee the hexproof. Flight of Fancy is probably the best enchantment in the deck because it draws 2 cards when it comes into play. So every time that you flicker this thing, you could be getting infinite cards. Incubator Drone, again, just another 1/1, but being able to sack for mana, it's not the worst. Ninja, again, we said is pretty good. We get to replay creatures that we hit with that have good ETB effects. Archaeomancer is just a 1-of. We could play cards like Scrivener and Mnemonic Wall, but we don't have that many spells. But I like just 1 Archaeomancer because it's the cheapest version of this card. The other ones cost 5, and being able to get back, God's Willing, Apostle's Blessing, Momentary Blink, Shelter, Counterspell, it is pretty good value. So I think it's fine to play 1 of. Mistraving, just another flying bounce effect. Serrated Arrows, this is a pretty sweet, unique effect because every time you flicker it, it'll get a full set of 3 counters on it, so you get to really control the board with this very important card, especially against commons. It really nukes things. These cards I didn't find till late, but I think they're pretty great. Maybe it makes our deck a little bit too much air in the deck, but I figure if we draw cards, we just want a lot of mana. And if you hit with Brago and you get to untap this, it's basically untapping Soul Ring, so you really get to recast more things post combat main phase with Brago. So I think that's really good. Sensor Splicer, now this is a 3/3 token. This is a real token, so this card is definitely worth the cut. I could very easily see putting in Knightly Valor. I had it in for a while, but I figured it was just too risky, to be able to hit, and then if they have removal up 5 mana a lot, so that could be pretty just risky. But yeah, Totem Guide Heartbeast is another tutor effect that goes along with Heliod's program. Very important because our enchantments are so good. Griffin Dreamfinder we've already talked about. Just Gravedigger for auras is really strong because a lot of them can trip and they might fall off and they might get milled and we might lose them somehow. And it's really sweet to be able to just have that safety net. Mole Drifter, probably the best creature in the deck, just because if you ever flicker this, you just, again, it's just like Flight of Fancy and Mole Drifter. You just want those, draw those every game. Aethersnet, pretty sweet to replay any effect. And then Vendalken Dismisser, this one is just the lock. If you ever have Brago and this in play, you lock them out of their draw step. So that's pretty much good game if they can't interact with that. So there's a lot more cards that I originally had in this deck. My first round opponent was good friend and co-host of SPDC, Roberto Remedio, and I definitely put him on some sort of grindy value deck. And so I don't need cards like Enlightened Mystic or Cloud Chaser Kestrel to kill enchantments, but against a hexproof deck, you absolutely need those cards in your deck. Otherwise, I guess you only have Core Sanctifiers, which is fine, but you want to add at least Enlightened Mystic because it's a May ability, first off. Second off, it's 2 mana, so you can search for it with Model the Mixture, and you can search for Core Hookmasters with the Drift of Phantasms, so you have some targets there. Other good cards that I've cut are Steel of the Godhead. It's sick on Brago because it gives it unblockable and lifelink, but usually you don't need lifelink. At least I don't think you do, because you have so much starting life total. You should have plenty of time, and then you should just grind them out with card advantage if Brago is actually hitting. And then if you have other cards I'm thinking about that I've cut, Faith's Fetters, Conclave Phalanx, Lone Missionary, a bunch of cards that just gain life, even Rift Watcher. They'll just gain a bunch of life, but life gain is not what you need. You need card draw. And so if I was going to play this deck again, which I pretty much will, because I want to make it better and perfect it, I just need more cards that say draw a card on them. That's it. And then maybe just more ways to protect Brago, so that when I have cast Brago with 6 mana, I just have like 2 ways to protect him or something. Because if I can get him to hit, I'm just going to be the golden child. So that's Brago. He's my bro. The King Eternal Spirit Legendary Creature Animal. Spirit Animal. So that was a bit lengthy, but I hope you enjoyed going over the deck with me. I will highlight small changes real quick and try to post live matches of these things, because these matches take forever, so I don't want to play the match and then do the replay separate like I usually do. I'd rather just comment live, which probably will detract from my play and make me play really slow compared to what I'm used to, but it's a good skill to learn if I'm ever gonna get good at it and think through my lines and be good at the streaming type content production. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment. Alright, cool, thanks.